This is about the year 2016. A few doctors in Estonia were doing brain checkups of a patient. Only then did he notice such a thing which no one had done before in medical science. This patient had a brain disease, so the doctors recorded his brain activity through 3G. So this is a routine brain checkup for the doctors. They were testing a very typical patient as they do for other patients. But he had no idea that something would happen during this test which would ultimately shake medical science. It so happened that just a few minutes had passed since the trial started when the patient had a sudden heart attack and died. This incident occurred for the first time in the life of doctors that a patient had died during brain scanning. The doctors were sure that whatever was going on in the patient's mind at the time of his death would also be recorded in this test. And something similar happened. Everything that the patient's mind was thinking before and after the end of the patient was recorded in this test. Welcome back again to Casual Grip. The patient who died during the brain scan was an 87-year-old Canadian national with epilepsy. Due to this disease, he used to have seizures while sitting, so doctors were performing ECGs to monitor his brain waves. EEG, electroencephalogram, is a test in which the electrical activity in the brain is monitored. For this test, about a dozen electrodes are affixed to the patient's head, which detects the electrical charge produced by brain cells and then shows them on a computer screen. Now, from the result of this test, how do the doctors know what is going on in the patient's mind now? To know this, we must first understand the concept of brain activity. More than 100 billion neurons are found in the human brain. These neurons are an essential part of our nervous system, whose job is to transmit messages from one place to another inside the brain. This message is an electrical charge that neurons in one part of the brain send and neurons in another. The process of that message is by receiving the electrical payment and then signaling the body part to perform any action. So many techniques are happening simultaneously in the brain all the time that, as a result, countless electrical charges move from one place to another. The movement of these electrical charges creates a pattern of waves called brain waves. This pattern of brain waves differs for each task, to which medical science has also given different names. So far, medical science can identify 5 types of brain waves: alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and theta waves. The pattern of alpha brain waves is something like this. Its frequency ranges from 8 to 12 Hz. In 1 second, this wave is formed from 8 to 12 times. Our brain produces alpha waves when our mind is completely relaxed, exactly when we wake up early in the morning and are relaxing, lying on our bed. Now know about the beta wave. The pattern of the beta wave is something like this, whose frequency ranges from 12.5 to 30 Hz, and it is produced when we are well awake and busy with our work. Beta waves are also produced when we are thinking about something or concentrating on something. The frequency of gamma waves ranges from 25 to 1 Hz, the highest frequency wave in all brain waves. Our brain produces gamma waves when we are very active and perform highly complex work. People who are very intelligent and can solve any complex problem in minutes. Delta waves have the lowest frequency of all brain waves. Their frequency ranges only from 0.5 to 4 Hz. Delta wave is produced in our brain during deep sleep. That is when we are sleeping very deeply. Delta wave produces many hormones in our body, especially growth hormones. These waves are primarily found in children, and as a person ages, the delta wave also decreases. And now, lastly, let's talk about theta wave. Theta wave's frequency ranges from 4 to 7 Hz and is generated in the brain during memory, learning new skills, and late dreaming. Now that we know the basics of these brain waves, it will be easier for us to understand the brain scan of that patient, as we know that the frequency of gamma waves ranges from 25 to 1 fatty. There is another range within this range, which runs from 30 to 100 Hz, and the brain produces gamma waves of this particular frequency when we use our memory. That is when we are remembering the specific events of life. At the time of the death of that Canadian patient, doctors noticed a lot of gamma waves in his brain, which were especially falling in the range when a person recalled the memory of his life. Even before this, saisongs had tried to notice the brain activity of people at the time of death, but they could not record them completely. But in the case of this Canadian patient, Good and bad memories of his life came in front of him for a few minutes before and even after his death. The doctor and scientist studied the gamma wave of the dying patient thoroughly from 2016 to 2022, for 5 years, and then concluded that the person remembers his life events while dying. There is no concrete proof of this finding by doctors and researchers, but to prove their finding, those patients who were near death due to some disease were also contacted, or some patients whose lives are saved by taking them to the hospital at the last moment. When those people were asked, they also said that it was as if someone had played a flashback of their life in front of them. Any 1 or 2 people did not face this experience, but many gave similar answers. Doctors and researchers did not make this brain scan public since 2016 because they wanted to study it thoroughly, and secondly, it was of another human being as well. He tried to match the brain scan at the time of death with a scan of this Canadian patient, but recently he failed in this work. Now that the doctors have the brain scan of only one person at the time of his death, his findings are quite controversial. Doctors have also written in research papers that the Canadian patient was already suffering from a disease, so he was taking many medicines. These medicines can also alter brain activity, due to which there can be a difference in the result. However, there is a high chance that when a person dies, a flashback of his whole life goes on before him. And if this is true, then for the one who has done good deeds in his life, the same things will repeat in front of him while dying, and for the one who has chosen the path of evil deeds, the same flashback will come in front of him. What do you think about this pure scientific research by doctors? Write below in the comment section. I hope you guys will like and share this video of Casual Grip 2. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next great video.